Hey everyone! I've been away recently working on a series of videos on quite a different and new topic. But that train of thought was interrupted by the events you may all be aware of. On April 12 and 13, triggered by world events, Bitcoin dropped dramatically for 2 days straight, from a high of around 71,000 to a temporary low of just under 60. It has since bounced back, of course, but what interests me as a mostly high volatility trader is what happened in my trading during the process. To be fully open, I have missed the events of the first day completely, but my algos did not. I was so busy on Friday that I first took a look at my P&L only on Saturday morning. Satisfied with what I've seen, I have restarted the algos on Autostop accounts and went on with my day. To me, it appeared as nothing more than another successful volatile day on the market. Only a bit later, I found out that something out of the ordinary had actually happened. I've heard that some other traders suffered significant losses. So I had to go back and reevaluate what happened and figure out what allowed me to stay in pretty good shape. Today, I'll do a very quick review of the main points. I do not claim that my setup is perfect whatsoever, but maybe what I have to say will be helpful to some of you. First of all, I do not feel like holding out on the reveal of my P&L this time around. On each of the 2 days, I made more or less 1,000 USDT with exactly the same high Bitcoin algos at 1.7 and 2.4 or 2.8. Obviously, that's not too outrageous of a profit, but pretty good nonetheless, especially where others seem to have lost a bunch of money, at least on the first day. This made me realize that my algos actually tend to be rather safe and risk-averse, and what I miss out on in terms of opportunities for larger profits, I make up for by avoiding losses. So let's see what makes them safe. Firstly, many reported very high latency during the highest peaks of volatility, whereby Binance failed to place take profit or stop loss orders upon opening a position in a timely fashion. Just take a look at this graph showing order latency during that time. That looks pretty bad. In my own algos, I have quite strict latency settings. 3 seconds for trade latency, 2 seconds for order latency, and 1.5 seconds for order time window. In my case, out of 709 trades across 2 days, I only have 22 that remained open longer than 5 seconds. This, of course, leaves out liquidations because Moontrader reports do not specify the correct open time for these. Well, it just so happens that 20 out of those 22 trades were huge losses, totaling over 660 USDT. The sum total of losses for the 2 days was minus 2,371 USDT, which means that 3% of trades that took the longest to close account for 28% of the losses. Pretty important stuff. On the whole, my average closing time was 2 seconds. And taking out liquidations, the average closing time for all profits was 1 second, and for all losses, 4 seconds. On a related note, let's talk about my Autostop settings, which are currently at minus 50 USDT. It appears that on April 12, there have been 2 waves, first at around 5:30 p.m. and another one an hour later. The first one was pretty mild, and the second one was a bit more brutal. During the second wave, the trading on most of my accounts was halted by tight autostops, and as I've been blissfully unaware of what's been going on, I did not restart anything at the time. Here I have isolated the trades from some individual accounts for the first day, and you can clearly see where the autostops were triggered. Maybe that's what prevented me from losing what had been gained. On the other hand, maybe I missed out on more profits, who knows. The first wave brought in 333 USDT in 53 trades, and the second one 581 USDT in 252 trades. Then all pretty much stopped. One pet peeve of mine related to Autostops is the so-called phantom open positions, like this one. They've plagued many recent versions of Moontrader. They are not real, and as you can see, nothing changes when you close them, but they do trigger the Autostops by making the core believe that I've actually got too large a loss in my unrealized P&L. It is quite possible that a bunch of my accounts have been Autostopped due to these spurious positions. I do hope that this gets fixed sooner rather than later. Another safeguard that I use is the Bitcoin 5-minute delta filters. I've set not only the lower end of the range, but also the higher end. Based on one of the previous volatile days, for the distance of 1.7, I've set the upper limit at 6.2%. This means that once Bitcoin exceeds this level of volatility, only my higher distance algos remain active. And they are also capped off, but this time at 9%. Interestingly enough, on the first day, the highest volatility detected by any of my trades was only 3.6%, but on the second day, it was a whopping 7.26. This means that at some point, I remained active only at higher distances of 2.4 and 2.8. Now, if we were to look at the results per distance, we see that 1.7 still remains the most profitable, with an ROE of 84% and a profit-to-loss ratio of 3. At the distance of 2.4, the absolute profits are half of those at 1.7, with an ROE of 38%, but the profit-to-loss ratio is now 5. At 2.8, it is even more exciting, almost exactly the same amount in absolute profit as 2.4, but the profit-to-loss ratio is now 10. Of course, there are much fewer trades, but the average profit per trade is 8.4 USDT, whereas at 1.7, it is less than 2 USDT on the order of 1300. There was 1 liquidation at 2.4 and 11 liquidations at 1.7. The worst single trade was this one, a liquidation of minus 125 USDT. It stayed open for 16 seconds, and this is actually the worst single trade I've ever had. The best trade was this one at 4% take, yielding 50 USDT in one shot. This is my third best single trade ever. Overall, the best performing coin was Algo, making 124 USDT in 18 trades. And the worst was Ace, losing 182 USDT in 7 trades. Overall, I've had trades on 184 coins, out of which 132 ended up being profitable and 52 ended up losing. Now, all of these are just cool facts. I don't think that this extreme black swan event is something that I would want to consider when making future blacklists or whitelists. These 2 days will probably have to stand on their own in the overall stats. Well, that was a very quick overview of my 2 recent very fun days in trading. What about you? How did yours go? Now let's quickly do Show Me the Money. Since last time, I am up 3,507 USDT. That is not bad. So, what have we learned today? First, I've learned that my algos seem to be rather safe and risk-averse due to quite strict settings for latency, Bitcoin deltas, distances, and autostops. Maybe I could gradually move some safeguards to performance filters and relax the autostops a little bit. It just seems that every volatile day for me ends up triggering most of the autostops and the opportunities may be missed. Secondly, these types of events are rare and, at least for me, unpredictable. And I'm happy that my algos were ready for that. To be fair, I did tighten the safeguards on the recommendation of another experienced trader a few months ago. And I'm very thankful for the advice and for the fact that I've actually listened. Alright, keep on trading. I will see you next time.